morning, Village family. So glad to have you joining us today. Back in our home again, just seems to be the normal these days. So we'd love to have you singing from home if you can. We miss you and feel free to join us.
All to Jesus I surrender all. To Him I freely give. I will ever love and trust Him in His presence daily live. I surrender all. I surrender all to Thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all, and all to Jesus I surrender. Make me Savior, wholly Thine. Let me feel the Holy Spirit. Truly know that Thou art mine. I surrender all. I surrender all to Thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all to Thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender Lord, I surrender all to Your strong and faithful hand. In everything I will give thanks to You. I'll just trust Your perfect plan when I don't know what to do. I'll lift my hands when I don't know what to say. I'll speak Your praise when I don't know where to go. I'll run to Your throne when I don't know what to think. I'll stand on Your truth when I don't know what to do. Lord, I surrender all. Though I'll never understand, perfect peace. Send your perfect peace, Lord. As I lift my hands, let your healing come. Let your healing come to me. As I bow my knees, send your perfect peace. Send your perfect peace, Lord. As I lift my hands, let your healing come. Let your healing come to me. As I bow my knee, send your perfect peace. Send your perfect peace, Lord. As I lift my hands, let your healing come. Let your healing come to me. Oh, when I don't know what to do, I'll lift my hands. When I don't know what to say, I'll speak your praise. When I don't know where to go, I'll run to your throne. When I don't know what to think, I'll stand on your truth. When I don't know what to do, oh, when I don't know what to do, when I don't know what to do.
Well, hello, Village Church, and hello, everybody, Church. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed Ethan and Rachel singing. They'll be coming back in just a moment for another song. And then today's talk is going to actually be Stan and I talking about certainty and trust. We have a lot of issues right now where people are saying, Ray, don't you know when the church is going to reopen? It's like, I don't really. This past week, many of you might have seen Andy Stanley, the pastor of the huge North Point Church. He announced they're not going to open back up until 2021 because they just feel like it's not going to be good for them. I don't know what's going to be right for us, and so I'm having to just walk without knowing the answers. And life has a lot of situations where that's all you can do is just walk even though you don't know the answers. Stan and I are going to talk about that. It's going to be very helpful, so don't leave. Stay with us today, okay? Now behind me, you might notice we're shooting this a little differently. This is the back of the auditorium that you're looking at, and there are 6, 7, 8 people back there preparing a meal that's going to be taken into downtown Atlanta to feed people who are experiencing homelessness through Safe House, one of the great ministries that we have ever partnered with in the world. And so I just want to say how proud I am that we have these people here. They all have their masks, they have them on, of course, and they're just working, they're happy, and they're putting together fried chicken and beans and watermelon and dessert. And later today, some people are going to be very, very happy who are going to open these boxes and having this beautiful fried chicken for them to eat. So I'm very excited about that. Now, of course, is the time when we invite you to participate in giving if you can. Obviously, it takes money to do what we do. It takes money to keep this building open. It takes money to just everything. It takes money. And so the only way it works is when people who see value in what we're doing share with us. And so if you'd like to participate, this is what you do. There's 3 ways. One, you can take your phone and you can text the word GIVE to 404-998-8979. 404-998-8979. Very simple. You'll immediately get a text back that will walk you through the process, and almost anybody can figure out how to do it with that simple text app that you're going to get back. The second way you can do it is you can go online, thevillageatlanta.com/give. And again, the information is so simple. You fill it out and you're able to give from there. And you can even make it a recurring gift if you like, where you don't have to go back on anymore. It'll just every month or every week, whatever you set up, it can happen just like that. And then the third way you can give is you can just write a check, the Village Church, and you can send that check to 3418, the Village Church, 3418 Dogwood Drive in downtown Hateville. You don't have to put downtown, just Hateville, Georgia, 30354. And I appreciate so much your help, because when you see value in what we're doing and you stroke a check, it allows us to do more. And we appreciate that so much. I can't tell you enough how excited I am about our talk that we're going to have, Stan and I, in just a few minutes. So please stick around with us. And I just want to say a prayer for all of you right now, okay? Let's pray. God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for every person who is watching. Thank you for walking with us through crazy times and never leaving us nor forsaking us. Thank you for the scripture that says nothing can separate us from your love. We believe that, and we thank you that you're that kind of a deity. You're that kind of divine presence. You love us endlessly. Thank you for that. Thank you for this day. Thank you for those who are going to be able to help support. Thank you for every person who's watching right now. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Your eye is on the sparrow, and your hand, it comforts me. From the ends of the earth to the depths of my heart, let your mercy and strength be seen. And you call me to your purpose as angels understand. For your glory, may you draw all men as your love and grace demands. And I will run to you, to your words of truth, not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit of God. And yes, I will run the race till I see your face. Oh, let me live in the glory of your grace. And you call me to your purpose as angels understand. For your glory, may you draw all men as your love and grace demands. And I will run to you, to your words of truth, not by might, not by power, but by the Spirit of God. Yes, I will run the race till I see your face. Oh, let me live in the glory of your grace. And I will run to you, to your words of truth, not by might, not by power, but by till I see your face. Oh, let me live in the glory. Oh, let me live in the glory. Oh, let me live in the glory of your grace.
Well, good morning, Village Church. I'm so honored that you tune in. I'm glad that you're here, and everybody, church, thank you for watching. And I'm especially happy that Stan Mitchell, we have not seen each other for months. Stan Mitchell is in town. Stan, welcome. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Man, I've missed you guys. I've missed the village. I know you guys have missed the village.
Yeah.
How long has it been since you've had a service?
It's been since whatever that week was in March. I think you were the first person to speak when we had closed the services. You happened to be in town and you did the talk. And then we haven't gone back.
And things are, I mean, I check in with you periodically. Things are okay? People are hanging in here?
You know what? It has been amazing. We have made new friends online, so that has been unbelievably positive. And then people who are a part of the village have kind of gotten into the rhythm of watching. I get pictures from them where they're watching with their families on sometimes Sunday morning, sometimes Monday night, but they will pull up YouTube or Facebook on the big screen television, and they'll all be seated around, they'll watch it, or some people catch it on their way to work on Monday mornings, or some catch it live. And that part has been really, that part has been good to me, but I miss the hugs, I miss the after the service, getting to pray for somebody who's going through just a struggle. I gotta be honest, those things are hard to duplicate when you've done it like we've done it for so long. It's been really difficult.
I don't know if it's an advantage, but I'm in a different place now than I've ever been in 36 years. For the last 36 years of ministry, church has been Sunday morning and a building. You know, of those 36 years, 25 of them has been as a lead pastor in a congregation. So, you know, several months ago in the last year, stepping away from the day-to-day lead position of pastoring a local church, now I pastor Everybody Church. And Everybody Church lives this way all the time.
That's right.
So I live in a cyber church now where our connectedness is not physical, but we're always trying to bridge that gap by finding ways to create intimacy, community, you know, across the airwaves. So I haven't really felt the big shift that you guys have been feeling, so it's a little bit easier for me probably.
You know what it has made me think is some people are going to be able to totally do cyber church, and it's going to be for them everything that church can be, and they're going to be able to develop small groups around themselves that will give them that sense of family. And then there are still going to be many, many people who are going to like not only the cyber church idea, but they're going to like to check in from time to time and just be in space, share the same space. And so I'm glad that the village still is going to be able to do that someday.
Yeah, I don't think it's an either or. I think it's a both and. As you were saying that, I am so relieved that difference doesn't have to be explained in my head theologically anymore. I'm glad that I don't have to figure out which of those is best, which of those is doctrinally right. The reality is those two people that you just described, a lot of that comes down to personality.
Personality?
Not everything comes down to the doctrine of God. There's personality involved here. And some of it, even beyond personality, is personal experience. You and I both know through Everybody Church, there are some people who've had experiences that have so, I don't know, impacted them. They're not ready to come back to church. So some of it comes down to personal experience. A lot of it comes down to personality. I'm glad we have both. I know for myself, the move away from vocational leadership in a local congregation was a really tough one for me to make because I only knew life that way. Sunday mornings are so odd for me these days. But one of the things, and I said this to Everybody Church not long ago, one of the things that's been an advantage for me is as a public person, as a stage person, as a person connected to the crowd, my most intimate relationships sometimes have suffered from that. And honest to goodness, I have really enjoyed connecting at a deeper level with my children, my mom and dad, my brother and sister. I think about, and I'm not comparing myself to Jesus, but I think about the day that he was in the middle of the crowd and the people were thronging him, and his mom and siblings came, and on the outskirts of that crowd, they were longing for him. I know they were missing him. And you kind of feel the pathos of that they're there watching this person who is intimately connected to them in a completely different setting, impacting people and relating to people in a completely different way than he related to them. And his mother, presuming upon that relationship, sends one of the people as an emissary in, presumptuously thinking that he was going to receive the message the way she thought he would, saying, hey, tell him his mom is here.
Right.
And when the person came back, the person said, he said to tell you that these are his mothers and his brothers, and he can't see you right now. And that makes me think back to when she, as a young mother, took him to the temple and held him up, and the old priest, Simeon, prophesied over her and said, the sword that pierces him will pierce your side also. And he will be the source of your greatest joy. And this is a prophecy for all parents. It kind of gives me goosebumps. He'll also be the source of your greatest sorrows and heartbreaks. And so when they thrust that spear into his side on the cross, and blood and water, sacraments of the new covenant, came out, and all of that lofty theological meaning poured out of that man, there was still this mother that he tended to and said, John, this is your mom. Mom, this is your son. She must have cried and said, I don't want him to be my son. I want you. And I know as a public person, as a pastor, not to that extent, but those closest to me have experienced that feeling of being on the periphery. And I've got to say, honestly, as a human being, not as a pastor, this has been good for me vocationally to create a space where I could reconnect with the people. I don't know, maybe I'm getting all teary now. I'm using the village right now to do autotherapy, self-therapy, but it's been good for me. And I think, you look for silver linings, and this isn't just one I've made up, this is one I'm experiencing in a real way.
I wanted to get your insight, if you can share any, about the churches starting back up. Because you and I have talked about it a little bit.
I was wanting to get your insight about that because you're the one in the throes of it.
Yeah, it's interesting because people have said to me, Ray, when are we going to start back up? And I have nothing against churches that are trying to start up now. I understand, but we have not felt like things were such that it would be good for us to bring our congregation back into the same space. And I've really appreciated our congregation seems to be on that same page, that as long as we need to wait, we'll wait. But then they'll always say, but we miss it. We can't wait to get back, but we don't want you to feel compelled to push us back too soon. Because honestly, I read the World Health Organization, the CDC, I listen to Fauci, I listen to all these people, and quite frankly, I don't feel yet like I can blow the whistle and say, come on back, guys. So I'm just wondering if because you're watching from the outside, you're not having to make these decisions for a local congregation. Any thought?
Yeah, so if I climb up on a high horse right now and sound very sure of what I think needs to be done, that is a very convenient holiness that I have access to right now because I don't have as vested of an interest. Several things that I think for you guys, because I do feel connected and I do feel like this is a home for me. I know we do miss physical touch. We are incarnational. God did not make us to be floating ethereal spirits. There's a reason we have bodies. There's a reason we have hands and faces. The eyes are the window of the soul, and I think there's something missing when we can't look into one another's eyes. I mean, through the years, I've had this happen multiple times, but one time in particular, I remember walking, I'm not that touchy-feely of a person, but this church kind of works on me, as many others do, to kind of get over that. And I do enjoy hugging now. I do enjoy touch, though I wasn't really raised that way. But one time, against my nature, I was walking the halls at Grace Point before service, and I passed a woman. She was probably my mother's age, and the encounter was nondescript. But as I got past her, I thought, I need to go back to her. That's all I thought. When I turned around, she had already turned around and she was staring at me. And I knew there was something there, so I went back and I said, I think I need to give you a hug. And she fell on me. And I'll never forget what she said. I can't remember specifically the time, but it was either 6 months, 9 months, maybe a year. She was a retired school teacher. For whatever reason, life had set her up to be very alone in the world, familially and friends and geographically. And she told me, she said, this is the first touch I have had from a human being in 9 months, a year. And I can't imagine that. My life is so full of people. So I do think there is incredible value there. And yet I also think there's incredible value in showing love by facing down this pandemic and doing what we need to do. I mean, people are dying. People are dying that don't need to be dying. And I think the most loving thing we can do right now, it seems so counterintuitive, I think the most loving thing we can do is still to stay apart. And the sacrifice involved in that, I think the biggest question I have, and the one that I hear, and I know you've got to be facing internally, and this is the one I'll throw back to you. Do you have a sense of when? I mean, we can get through it if we just know it's 3 months, 6 months. Just give me an answer so I can bite the bullet and get there. Do you have a sense?
I wish, and I think that I have wanted that. I've wanted to say, I think after July, guys, we're going to kind of have a feeling after we see are the deaths going up, since now we've kind of broken so many of the social distancing rules. Then maybe we'll have an idea, are they staying level? And it brings us back to what you and I talk about a lot, which is uncertainty is something. I used to know everything. I used to be so certain about everything. And I would have been certain about this. I would have known, and I would have declared it. I would have said it strongly. And right now, the most honest answer I have is, I don't know right now. I don't know.
Well, that goes against the grain, not only of human nature in general. I mean, our psyches take solace in certainty, and we're comforted by certainty. I think sometimes we would rather have a certain untruth than an uncertain truth.
Oh, interesting.
We just find comfort in knowing, and we could certainly tease that out, and those that their profession is psychology could tease that out even more effectively for us. But I think it's not only true of human beings that we find comfort in certainty, and we find a lot of fear in uncertainty. We want to be able to brace ourselves for what's coming. I remember the old B.F. Skinner's his experiments with the rats, in the cage. And the reality was, if the rat pushed a lever and knew it was going to get a shock, and then it would get water, the rat would brace itself, because it knew, in order to get water, I have to push this lever, and every time I push this lever, I'm going to get shocked. That rat survived that experience. You could even see the rat meditating, contemplating what was about to happen, and bracing itself, and measuring the pain versus the payoff, and figuring out an algorithm of how long it would go before it would get water. But that rat didn't go crazy. But the rat that did go insane was the rat that they put in a cage where it never knew when it pushed the lever if it was going to be shocked or not. The uncertainty, not the pain itself, but the uncertainty of whether or not it was going to experience pain was the thing that made that animal mad. And I think we still have that lizard rat brain at the base of our skull, and I think we all feel that on a human level. And I think the Christianity that I've grown up in, which I have such a love and appreciation for Christianity, but the version of Christianity I grew up in, I don't think it played unfairly, but I think it did play unwittingly to that human need, almost pandering to it by creating solutions and answers that sounded really good on the surface, that sounded good in a sermon and a song and a soundbite, but ultimately ended up disappointing people severely, often to the point that it so disillusioned people they lost their entire faith. And you and I both know that Christianity has always been about the business of maturing. And for my particular branch of Christianity, I think we're maturing out of pandering to that demand for certainty, and we're leaning into not just the acceptance of uncertainty, but maybe even leaning into it, understanding that in some ways for our soul it's even better. I think it was Mike Yaconelli that went and had a few months to spend with Mother Teresa. He was at a crossroads in his life. You know, Mike did great work with youth specialties, and he's an evangelical hero. And he was a forward thinker progressively before a lot of others. But Mike went to spend time with Mother Teresa, and he was there 3 months just trying to still his heart and find a way forward, because he was at a crossroads in his ministry and he just didn't know what to do. He didn't expect that this was going to happen, but in the process of being there at the end of his time, he got what was called a hearing with Mother Teresa. And he said when he sat down with her, she was everything that he had expected her to be. There was just an aura of sacredness and holiness. And he said, I knew I was in the presence of something special. And if I would not have known it was her, he said, I still believe that I would have felt the palpable sense of God's presence with her. And he said, as I sat down with her, he said, I just began to dissolve. And he said, she reached across with great compassion, took me by the hands. And as she took him by the hands, she looked at him and said, how can I pray for you, my child? And he said, I just vomited, please pray for me that I can find direction and clarity, certainty for the way forward. And he said, as soon as it escaped me and I poured it out, he said, I felt such a relief just to put it in her lap. And he said, as soon as it got into her lap, her demeanor changed. And he said, she almost threw my hands down on the table. And she leaned back and said, I will not pray for you to have clarity. And he said, it broke me. And he said, I just leaned across the table and said, but Mother, you have always been such a person of clarity and direction from your time as a young girl leaving Central Europe to come and do this work. And he said, when he told her her story, he said she chuckled, softened, put her hand over her mouth just like a little old lady would. And she said, it seems, but this is not true. She said, it may seem that I've been a person of certainty and great clarity, but I have seldom had those things. But in the absence of those things, I have learned trust. She took him back by the hands and said, I will pray for you to have trust. And I don't believe in a God who puts us in a maze and tortures us or shoots bullets at our feet like some divine court jester wanting to, see us, or divine king wanting us to be the court jester to provide him a laugh. I don't think God just has set this thing up so it would be hard to prove us. And at the same time, I do think in my own life, I have learned more about my own soul, and I have grown more in seasons of uncertainty than in seasons of accuracy and acuity and clarity. I don't know, does that make sense?
Oh yeah, and are you the one that says the universe is a soul? You say something, soul building,
Yeah.
something like that. And
The universe it's a soul-making universe,
Yes.
and it's a Christ-making world.
and everything belongs.
Yeah.
And so, even this uncertainty, this is a part of it, and we just have to trust as we walk through it.
Trust. What are you trusting? That's a great question. Trust what? I mean, I used to trust that everything works out for the best. I used to trust that God was testing me and was making me better. And I just said a little bit of that a while ago, but I used to trust that God had predestined everything, was micromanaging and controlling, and all I had to do was just be like the needle that fit down in the groove of the record and play the thing out. I used to trust the extreme prosperity doctrine. I used to trust that if I had enough faith, God would always heal me. I don't know. The things I trust these days aren't as simple as X plus Y equals Z. They're more algorithmic. There are a lot more variables involved. So I would throw back to you, what are you trusting? And don't just tell me I'm trusting God.
No, you're
What's
right.
that mean that you're trusting God?
Well, sometimes I worry that when I say something, it sounds shallow. But I have found sometimes the simplest answers for me are the best answers. And for me, I trust that I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. Whatever that means, I'm going to be all right. And I know, what does that say about the child in Africa that doesn't have food to eat? But I don't know. I just know that if everything falls apart, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be able to continue to live until I'm not able to live. And at that point, I'm still going to be okay, whatever that means. And I wish I had a great, profound Richard Rohr answer, but I don't. What would you say you're trusting in?
I mean, honestly, can I read you something
Oh, I thought you were
that
gonna
I
say-
just wrote a few minutes ago?
Okay, I'd love it.
I think I trust the same thing. If I did feel a need to put a scripture on that, and I don't feel it's obligatory, but I do find value
I
in
like it,
scripture.
yeah.
And if I had one verse that makes sense to me, even when it doesn't intellectually satisfy, it still passes the taste test. At a sensate, base, childlike level, it's Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good. I like the fact that Paul didn't say all things work out for the best. He didn't claim all things work out for the best, but he said in the absence of the best, they still work out for good. I mean, if I look at my life and all of the missteps, the right steps, all the tears, the laughter, the mistakes, the things I got right, I'm not even sure that I can accurately define which is which at this point. And I don't feel a need to clean all of that up with certainty either. I do have a sense that maybe I did lose the archetype, the ideal, the best. But I don't feel alone in that. I don't know that there's a human being in the world that has started out and has gotten to the end and achieved the exact perfect best that could have been. But I do believe in the absence of the best, things work out for good.
I love that.
And it's a blessed good. And I've talked at the Village before about the fact that I really like the word all things, not just the good things, not just the bad things, because even that binary, the longer I live, I look back at some things I used to think were bad and I think they're good, and some of the things I thought were good, I'm not so sure about that. I just trust this general that if I do my best, and even if I don't do my best, if I'm trying, that God's going to take all of it, and He's going to work it together for my good. Because I do think I love God, and I love people, and I just have a sense that it's going to work out somehow eventually. And Rohr's book, Everything Belongs, is my favorite book that Richard Rohr has written. I've never liked the title because I think some people see everything belongs and they conflate that with everything has been dictated. Everything belongs because God put it there. And I don't necessarily feel that. That's not my experience. I don't think God gives 3-year-old children leukemia to teach us lessons.
Right.
I mean, it's like Jim McGuigan, the great author, said, whose grandchild did have leukemia, if God gave my 3-year-old grandchild leukemia that eventually took my grandchild's life, if God did that to teach us some lesson, what lesson was God teaching the 3-year-old? That 3-year-olds are so dispensable that God can torture them to teach us to live better lives?
Doesn't make sense.
But McGuigan said it in a way that I really like in his book, The God of the Towel. He said, I don't think God dictates this stuff. I don't think it belongs here because God put it here. But I think in a world of our shaping, in a world of a complex shaping that we'll never fully understand, God shows up and said, since this is here, let's not allow these tears to be wasted. Since this is a world where bodies go awry and genetics create leukemia and children die from that leukemia and parents have to let go and grieve, in a world where these things happen, God comes along, not in a dictating way, not in a predestination way, but God comes along and says, with an economics, with a utilitarian mercy, God says, I will not let this have the last say. I will not let it be wasted. We're going to take it somehow and we're going to redeem it. That's what I feel. I don't have any sense that God is a dictator, but I sense God is a redeemer. And God's not saying, I did this, but God's saying, this has happened. And if you will simply love and trust, I will work this. You can stand back. It's like the children of Israel at the Red Sea. God said, all I need you to do is stand there. You know, we're so used to, don't just stand there, do something. But God said, don't just do something, stand there. But in your standing there and in your stillness, you are doing something. It is an active passivity. God said, I want you to stand there and I want you to hold your peace. And man, sometimes it's a whole lot easier to be doing something with our hands beside holding our peace. Sometimes peace is the hardest thing to hold, but God said, I just need you to stand there. And they've got the Egyptian army on their backside, which I think is a metaphor for your past coming back to haunt you. They've got the Red Sea, in front of them, which is this horrifying present that they don't know how in the world they're going to get through. They've got a land that has been called a land flowing with milk and honey, but as soon as they get there, it's filled with Jebusites, Perizzites, Girgashites, all the shites.
Right.
So they've got this haunting past, this uncertain future, and this devastatingly difficult present. And God says, this is what I need you to do. I need you to still your feet, calm your heart, and hold your peace. And I will work. It's even work for me. I mean, when God says I got to work at it, that means it must not be easy. I will work all of these things together. Mm-hmm. And I do trust that. And there was a time when I wanted to trust that. There was a time when I felt I was supposed to trust that. I guess one of the things about getting gray and getting some years behind you, I honestly can say right now, and I'm saying this very satisfyingly, Ray, I actually believe that.
Yeah, me too.
And it provides me comfort. And we used to say, I can't win for losing. I honestly feel like I can't lose for winning. That somehow on the other side of all this, it's going to work out for good.
I love that.
I trust that. And this is what I wrote today. Even to the degree of my faith, let me go. Don't cling to me. For years now, I've been doing this very hard, counterintuitive thing. This thing that Jesus asked Mary Magdalene to do after the resurrection. You remember?
Yeah.
She saw him first and wrapped her arms and said, I'm not letting you go again. You've gotten away from me once. You're not getting away from me again, mister. And Jesus says, let me go. For years now, I've been doing this hard work. Something that he asked Mary Magdalene to do in the very moment she found herself holding on to him more desperately and tightly than she ever had. And in retrospect now, with the passing of time, I have the capacity to say, so far, every time I have found the courage, not just to let go of the side of the boat, but to even let go of the Jesus in the boat. Every time I have found the courage to let go of him, Jesus has ended up coming back to me. Seldom quickly, often when I've least expected him, never because of my efforts, and each time in a way I could have never imagined. And I do know, and I'm finding peace with the fact that there is the possibility one day I will let go of him and he might not come back, or at least not in a way I would be able to recognize as him. But I'll leave that decision with him. And I feel like I will be able to trust things are okay either way. This is a Christianity I can believe in now. Anyway, that might be bothersome to some people, but that doesn't make me think less of Jesus or feel less Christian. It honestly feels like, go ye into all the world, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. I'm fine calling that the Great Commission, but I think the greatest commission may have been the one he gave to Mary. Mary, you've got to let me go. Because we can never hold on to Jesus, we can never hold on to God in a way that is so certain and complete that we exhaust it in that particular grip. And I think the beauty is the letting go is not to lose Jesus as much as it is to create space and capacity for him to come back in a way we could never expect. And I don't know, I'm liking, in ways, the trusting thing is harder than the certainty used to be. And even this morning, in response to that text, a woman wrote and said, I've let go, and he hasn't come back, and I miss him, and I miss church, and I miss all of that, but I can't get Humpty Dumpty back together again. And you can't force it. And I so respected her capacity to be there. And I think in ways, and this is some of what Rohr is talking about in the Universal Christ, I think in ways that level of humility and trust and honesty to be able to say, I miss that, but not so much that I'm going to break with my own integrity to recreate it falsely, but to be able to miss it and to hold it and not be bitter at it, and yet not be bitter that I don't have it and not try to manufacture it. I think that might be the Christ more than the certain doctrinal Christ ever was.
I think you're right. I think you're so right. And I remember years and years and years having to act as if I were certain, act as if I felt so connected, act as if everything was figured out and everything was strong and everything was right. And on the inside, none of that was true. And as I have grown in my understanding, it's okay to say, I don't know. And I'm like you, he has come back. Every time that I have let him go, he has come back. But I don't know if that's going to always happen. But I know whatever happens is going to be good. It's going to work to the good. This has been awesome to me because I sit in my family room with you, our little Florida room with you, and we have this exact conversation, and it's always organic. It just flows. And then you leave, and I think, golly, I wish I'd had a camera just to capture this, because I think it's going to be very helpful. I think what you shared today is going to be very helpful, and I appreciate you letting us turn the cameras on and just capture it.
I hope so. And so what I would say to the village, and sometimes I don't like saying the village because you're individual people.
Yeah.
And so to you as an individual, not just a macro group and an institution, but to you guys, my friends, I can't pray for you to have clarity. And I'm not going to pray for you to have certainty. Because I'm not sure on this side those things even exist. But I think I can say I'm going to pray for you to have something even better. And that is, I pray for you in Christ's name that you might have trust. And in that trust, you might find a peace that you can hold on to, and a deep, settled tasting, smelling, feeling, hearing, just a sensate experience that all things work together for good. And it's okay that we don't know when we're going to be here again. And it's going to be good. And God's going to use this. I do believe that. I'm grateful. Love you guys.
Stan. Love you guys.